fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on K98.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli here with my co-host, or actually, I think I'm his co-host, Russ Gallo. How you doing, pal?
What's going on, you nasty son of a you-know-what?
Oh, let me tell you.
Gene Baradelli, you're a nasty guy and nobody likes you. Channel a little Donald
And
Trump
Happy
there.
New Year to you,
Happy
too.
New Year to you. Channel a little Donald Trump there for those of you guys who caught the latest from the Trump
Donald
Cruz
Trump
wars.
Donald Trump making the Bible great again this week as well.
Yes, he actually...
at Liberty University, of all
he
places.
admitted that the Bible is better in his own book, so Trump is starting to become a little more...
he's becoming humble. This is good. That's it's good to learn a little humility. Especially,
Yes.
That's what the election cycle does
in
to
the
you.
face of the Bible, I mean...
Absolutely.
Good job.
Hey, listen, we got a great show for everybody today. We got Matt Schlapp coming on from the American Conservative Union. We're going to be talking CPAC. It's that time of year again. I always love going to CPAC. I make no secret about it. It's my spring break.
It's spring break for political nerds.
And it's a lot of fun, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in the coming weeks. And also, we're going to be talking to Dale Bellis from Liberty Health Share, our normal monthly check-in with him. But right now, Russ, let's get into this, because so much came out of the last debates here that we had this past week, the Republican debate, the Democratic debate. It's so much to chew on at this point. But it looks like the field is starting to winnow down. I mean, I have, at least anyway. Let me put this out there. I'm going to go on record, so to speak. We have a top four, in my opinion, that I think will be around for a while. Oh, good, you're writing it down. I appreciate that. We're talking Trump, Cruz, Rubio, and I'm saying Chris Christie. I'm throwing it out there right now, Russ, because those are the four, in my opinion, that had the best debate performance at this last debate in South Kakalaki.
I think Chris Christie would like to believe he's in the top four, but Chris Christie has a bunch of issues. He can't fight for the conservative wing of the party. He can't fight for the outsider wing of the party. He's trying to fight for the establishment wing of the party, but Chris Christie in his past has... First of all,
he's stammering. I love it.
No, because there's so many things running through my mind about this fake. He gave money. He gave a donation to Planned Parenthood in the past.
He has.
And
then he lied about it during the debate. Let's say it for real. He lied about it during the debate.
He said that Sotomayor would be a great Supreme Court justice at some point. Now he's trying to backtrack and say, well, all he was saying was that she should have an up or down vote in the Senate. That's not what he said. He said that she would make a good Supreme Court justice, and he was pandering then because she was a Hispanic woman. Just like his views on Planned Parenthood, obviously, whatever they were, he gave money to them. So I don't know how you can say that you are a conservative Republican, but have given money to Planned Parenthood in the past. So Chris Christie, he'd like to believe he's in the top four. You might want to make it an even number and throw him in the top four. Chris Christie is not in the top four. He's basically in George Pataki territory.
I only do this, Russ, because, and honestly, let's face it, who had a better debate performance, Chris Christie or Ben Carson?
Okay.
Okay. Who had a better debate performance, Chris Christie or Jeb Bush?
Okay.
Who had a better debate performance, Chris Christie or John Kasich?
But are we talking about debate performances or poll numbers? Or
I'm getting to a point, Russ. The point shall emerge. The point is that Chris Christie's the cream of the crap. Okay? He's not a top-tier candidate. I'm not saying he's even a conservative candidate. But when you look at what else is out there, Carly Fiorina's had her moment. It's come, it's gone. Rick Santorum had his moment. It was called 2012. Mike Huckabee had his moment. It was called 2008. Jim Gilmore had his moment. It was called 1996.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay? So we're not even going to go into everybody else in the field, the and the rest people. But who else has the possibility to rise into a top 4? Not Jeb Bush, not Ben Carson. His moment is come and gone. And not John Kasich. I just don't see it. So basically, by attrition, Chris Christie is your number 4 candidate right now.
So basically, through some arbitrary process, you have decided that there's got to be a top 4.
He's the cream of the crap,
When
Russ.
in reality, you got really a top 3.
Okay, if you want to say that there's a top 3 emerging, I think
Because the bottom, after third, they're all polling at less than 5%.
I can see Chris Christie making a move. That's all I'm saying.
Chris Christie. First of all, let me talk one more thing about
He's
Chris
the
Christie.
backup establishment guy when Rubio is ineligible.
But
Who said that?
before we figured it out, well, that's what he wants to be. His latest commercials are all bashing Rubio. But before he was even running for president, when he was just trying to run for governor in New Jersey or re-election in Jersey, he was a lot like what we see Donald Trump being today, wasn't he?
Bombastic, arrogant.
But the tough guy
Boastful,
that Chris Christie
yes.
is, all of a sudden isn't tough anymore.
Oh, he's now the peacemaker. Isn't that amazing?
Now he's trying to be the mature one on stage.
He's trying
the
to.
statesman.
That's not what he's doing. What he's doing is he's showing off his executive experience by making fun of the legislators on stage. A strategy that was endorsed by Russ Gallo once upon a time.
Not 100%.
Check the tapes, everybody. Russ Gallo said that the senators on stage have a distinct disadvantage to the governors because they have a voting record to go on.
No, absolutely. That is true.
You can
They have a
go up
long
against.
voting record.
Chris Christie has taken step 2 of that strategy in saying, not only do they have a long voting record, they have done nothing with their position. They don't know how to lead. And an executive has to actually make decisions, not just vote and pontificate on the floor of the Senate.
Correct, but the brilliance of the senators on that stage and the outsiders like Donald Trump, they're calling out Chris Christie, and they've called out the governors for decisions that they've made. And usually the Senate has a longer track record of votes, and you can see how someone votes over a long period of time where they stand on certain issues. But guys like Chris Christie have to answer for specific things they did while governor of a state, the chief executive as a Republican, supposedly. And there are not as many opportunities to vote as in the Senate, and Chris Christie's history is not conservative at all.
But here's the beauty of Chris Christie's strategy. He has flown so far under the radar to not bother anybody and to basically be insignificant that a lot of these attacks have gone out there. He's responded to them, and nobody's fact-checked. So he may think he's past them at this point because he gets to say, oh, we heard about this in November, or oh, we heard about this in December. We've got past this already. It's a decent strategy for a rhino, a Republican in name only.
A lot of times you don't do the fact-checking if they're polling at less than 5%. I mean, look at...
or in this case,
Ted
less than
Cruz.
2% because, sliding scale.
I mean, before Ted Cruz really started making a run on Donald Trump, the birther issue was a non-issue. Even though in political circles we've been talking about it for a couple of years now, it really didn't make the news. Now all of a sudden, to Trump's credit, or to Cruz's credit, but they both sort of said this, as Cruz rose in the polls, now all of a sudden it became a major issue. And
Trump admitted it on stage.
He basically admitted it on stage. Now it's something important because Cruz has a chance of winning. So
let's talk about the main event, people, because there is an undercard and there is a main event.
Exactly. So I'm scratching Chris Christie off of our list.
Okay, fine. Let's talk main event. Here's what I'm thinking right now, and I think Marco Rubio has this in mind when running. He will not engage Donald Trump, if you notice in the debate stage in South Carolina. He will engage Ted Cruz because he has the Oppo research done already, and because he's a coordinate senator, one term. They kind of have a lot of parity in that sense.
Yeah, they're both Hispanic. They both have the same base they're going for.
But here's the thing. If you notice, when you have a Rubio-Cruz tete-a-tete going back and forth, Donald Trump's silent. Donald Trump is ignored. Donald Trump doesn't factor in. They actually suck the air out of the room from Donald Trump.
But Trump is polling at 40%, so it doesn't even matter what they do.
And that's the mistake that Rubio is making, because while he's getting more airtime with Cruz, he is not putting a dent in the leader. He's hoping that there's enough in second place to take away that he can kind of overcome that. Second plus third equals greater than first. Which doesn't work, by the way.
Leave Rubio on the side for 1 second.
Okay.
Here's where Cruz is outmaneuvering Donald Trump.
And he definitely is in a lot of ways. Go ahead.
And specifically, the way I see it is that if Donald Trump were to drop out of the race tomorrow, a healthy portion of those Trump supporters would go to Cruz.
Agreed. Absolutely right.
Now, if it were the other way around, and it's getting more and more like this, let me just preface it with this. So with Trump attacking Cruz, underhanded attack, some would say, attacking him as a liberal Democrat would attack a Republican, with the birther issue, with saying you're a nasty guy and nobody likes you, baseless attacks pretty much. If Cruz were to drop out of the race tomorrow, I can't necessarily say that those people would go Trump. So Trump has fallen into a trap where he might actually plateau now. 40% is a nice place to plateau with 10 people still in the race, or how many people still in the race. But when you're second place guy, you're alienating his supporters to the point where they can never come on board with you. Trump is flirting with disaster going forward.
Well, let's workshop this out. Where else can Donald Trump find 10.1% from the field? Can he find it through Rubio dropping out? I think that's unlikely. I think you'll get some, but I don't think that you'll get 10.1%. Will you get it from Ben Carson? I think you'll get some, but
some
again,
Ben you'll get.
I don't think you'll get to 10.1%.
There's got to be a healthy portion of undecided Republican voters still. That's the only way.
That would be the only way, and I think the undecided is a withholding judgment because I think they can't palate Trump. So it is a dangerous game that you're talking about, Russ. But let me counter the argument a little bit. What is the group that most identifies with both Cruz and Trump? The Tea Party.
The Tea Party, the outsider.
Right. So now the Tea Party, to me, probably the most loyal set of grassroots voters you'll find of any segment that we talk about. Not ethnic group, not region. If you're a Tea Party person, you're kind of stuck with two candidates right now. You're stuck with Trump and Cruz. Do you see a Tea Party going to Rubio? Possibly. Do you see him going to Carson? Possibly. But his numbers are dropping, and I don't think Tea Party will get on that bandwagon. I can't see the Tea Party going anywhere else. So it may come to a point where the Tea Party member may not have anywhere else to go but to either Trump or Cruz, if one or the other drops out. It may be support by attrition. There's that word again. I mean, that's one way that a Tea Party could go. Now, again, if either one of them has that much of a market share that half or a quarter of the other person's vote would put them over the top to a majority, that's really all they would need. And once they have that majority, the rest kind of fall in line. So I think there could be something good on the horizon. One or the other will probably crown one or the other. That's just my counter.
Well, I think that Trump... I just want to talk about some of his baseless attacks real quick. The birther thing, first of all, Ted Cruz's mother was an American citizen. No one reputable really is challenging Ted Cruz's ability to run for the White House.
And even if they did, you have to have the proper standing. And even if they did, you still have to overcome a burden of proof and have it decided in time.
And this is
there's not enough time here.
Critical about, not to be hypocrites here. We did question Obama's eligibility to run for president, but there is no doubt on where Ted Cruz was born and who his mother was. With Barack Obama, there certainly was question as to whether or not he was even born in the state of Hawaii. So it was a totally legitimate question.
This is I think there's more of a case against Marco Rubio than there is against Ted Cruz because, to your point, the questions about the residency and the eligibility of his parents as Americans called into question, sort of like Barack Obama's family has been.
And some of the other things that Trump has been saying, and I think Trump is flirting with disaster on these other issues. So just on the news earlier today or yesterday, he said, Ted Cruz is a nasty guy and nobody likes him. If that's not the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. And mind you, I like Donald Trump. Like I keep saying, I'd rather have Ted Cruz be the nominee, but I can definitely live with Donald Trump. But he said one other thing, which, if this isn't hypocrisy, I don't know what is. He said, I don't know many evangelicals that came from Cuba. Just saying. That's what Donald Trump said. Mr. Trump is not an evangelical last time I checked. I don't even know if he's very religious at all. I know he's out there saying he is now.
He's playing to his base because, believe it or not, evangelicals are turning out for Donald Trump. We discussed that on previous shows. It's a quirky, different... We talked about this back in late September, early October. It's one of those quirky things. Evangelicals will go towards Trump because they worry about their pocketbook just as much as they are worried about their God.
So if you look at all these things that Trump is doing that, it's counterintuitive. You would imagine a Republican running in a primary offending the sensibilities of conservative Republicans and Cruz supporters. He wouldn't do well, but he's doing well. And here's the reason why. The reason why is kind of simple. If everything in this country goes pretty well for the next few months, then I think Ted Cruz will likely be the nominee. If Barack Obama keeps doing what he's done for the past 7 years, does what he wants to do, passes executive orders that are insane, trading criminals in this country for hostages in Iran, which he's done, giving Taliban prisoners for Bergdahl, that traitor. If Barack Obama keeps doing these things, then Donald Trump wins the nomination, because Donald Trump is feeding off of the anger of everyone, not just Republicans. Because in a general election, I think Donald Trump will crush whoever runs on the Democratic side. By the way, it's not so clear it's going to be Hillary, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Donald Trump will crush them because your average American, whether he be a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, is pissed the hell off.
Russ Gallo is the voice of an angry America here on Beyond Enemy Lines.
I'm angry, and that's the only reason why I would support a pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage, sometimes conservative guy like Donald Trump, because he's angry, I'm angry, let's burn this MFer down. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of good things that Donald Trump is doing, let's talk about his response to Ted Cruz when it came to, and this has been a hashtag that's been going on our show and everywhere else for the past couple of days, New York values. Donald Trump's answer was perfect. I understood what Ted Cruz was going at. I wrote a whole article on
your article because it was excellent to take on this.
On www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Check out the article. It's on you, New York, New York. And I'm going to go New York bashing in a second. But I just want to say that, yes, Ted Cruz is right. New York values are a thing.
And by the way, this is coming from guys who are in the belly of the beast, the People's Republican.
I am born and raised in southern Brooklyn.
And we fought our friends. I mean, we have lots of political friends in New York, from New York, and other parts of the country. We had email threads going back and forth, and so many people disagreed with my friend Gene on this. I wholeheartedly agree with Gene. I think he encapsulated the argument perfectly on the website, so please view the article.
And to summarize the argument is this. When you look to New York values, you're not talking about the individual person. Listen, we have 100,000 conservatives and Republicans in the People's Republic of New York City, just in Brooklyn alone. Yet we're outnumbered 8-1. Nobody's denigrating that 100,000 people who have conservative values. But look at the culture of New York. Albany has a culture of corruption. Albany has a revolving door between the Capitol building and the local prison system. They go around and round and round. How many mayors resigned in disgrace over a scandal? How many legislators resigned in disgrace or had to be kicked out because they got convicted because they wouldn't resign in disgrace? New York City, we banned soda. We tried to ban soda, I should say. We overburden... We banned soda, yet there is a free masturbation booth on 28th and 5th. You know, that's New York values.
Soda, for God's sake. I mean, we got gay marriage, abortion on demand, drug needle exchanges. These are New York values.
Breitbart reports that if you misidentify a gender that this person identifies with, a business can be fined up to $250,000. And that didn't even go through the city council. That was an executive order from an agency.
We got a part-time city council earning $130,000 a year, trying to give themselves, 25% pay raise.
We got a governor that said conservatives should leave the state.
They have no place in New York. No place in New York. The previous two governors were disgraceful, corrupt dudes.
Well, one's client number 9. The other was actually going to be convicted of corruption in a pay-for-play, taking tickets to the New York Yankees, if you remember. So, Governor Patterson, who, by the way, is now the de facto head of the Democratic Party in New York State. We could talk about Shelley Silver. We could talk about, on our side of the aisle, Michael Grimm. We could talk about Dan Halloran.
Within the past year, the leader of our assembly, Sheldon Silver, and the leader of our state senate, Dean Skelos, one Democrat, one Republican, were both convicted of corruption.
And we've said this before on past shows.
Within the past year.
there is the legend of William Boyland, who was on trial for corruption. It was a mistrial. And in order to pay for his lawyer, who got him through his first corruption trial, he was caught on FBI tapes soliciting money to pay off his legal bills in a pay-to-play scandal with the FBI. So he used corruption to pay for his corruption trial.
So,
come
in a nutshell,
on,
Ted Cruz is not wrong.
And we haven't
there is
even
such thing as New York Valley.
And we haven't even gotten to Hiram Montserrat, who assaulted his girlfriend, or the scheme to try to take the Republican line for the mayor's race by Malcolm Smith.
And we're way ahead of the curve on this, guys. Look on our website, and you'll see we have a clock, a counter. Like, you know when you're at work, and it'll say something like, it's been 187 days since we've had an accident at this job site, a safety slogan. We have a counter for the last time a New York politician was arrested, convicted,
or sentenced. Yeah.
And it doesn't go very high before we have to reset that clock.
I think the highest it ever went was like 100 days, and that's considered a long streak here in the People's Republic of New York.
So Ted Cruz nailed it. Donald Trump, for a guy who claims he's not a politician, used 9/11 like anybody's business.
Cue Lois Griffin.
Jeez, I mean, Rudy Giuliani even was like, ugh.
And Chris Christie was saying, hey, that's my line.
Hey, that's my line.
But Donald was savvy. And while the press and the mainstream media and Mike Lupica, of all people, when did Mike Lupica become the voice of New York politics, are all going after Ted Cruz, there was a straw poll done at the last meeting of the Metropolitan Republican Club in the People's Republic of New York City. Guess what the results were, Russ? 33% Trump, 32% Cruz.
Which is shocking.
It's not so shocking when you think that there are Tea Party people there, but 65% of the vote at that meeting, overwhelmingly in the majority for those two candidates.
That's a New York City-based Republican club.
And that club also took that vote after the New York Values comment and the uproar that followed. That, to me, shows that Ted Cruz might have some Kevlar on him when it comes to media attacks, especially with hardcore conservatives.
I think it's worth analyzing. It's shocking that even among New York City Republicans, Trump and Cruz are at the top of the heap.
But not for nothing as well. Think about the brilliant move that Ted Cruz did by this New York Values thing. What is the most hated place this side of the Mississippi if you don't live in it?
Oh, New York.
New York.
Especially for Republicans.
So when you are turning against the elite liberal bastion that is the People's Republic of New York City, the rest of the nation's going. The rest of the state, forget about the rest of the nation. The rest of the state is with him.
And again, I like Donald Trump, but I mean, honestly, to feign being offended at those remarks, how many Republicans are elected in the county of New York, which is Manhattan?
That would be zero.
Zero. How many Republicans are elected in the county of Kings, which is Brooklyn?
Are we talking about real Republicans, or are we talking about...
we'll even just go with someone who says that they're Republican.
Okay, how about...
say a real Republican.
Okay, so one.
One. And for those of you guys who are from these small counties that are listening to the show, God bless you. America is run by you guys. But, Gene, let's give them an idea of how big Brooklyn is, Kings County.
Oh, my... It would be the fourth largest city in the nation if it was its own city.
I forgot how many millions of people live in Brooklyn. I want to say it's 4 million. I will fact check that while we're on the air here. But it's tremendous. We have 20 assembly seats in Brooklyn. We have
20 complete. They have another one we share.
And there's another one that we share. There's several congressional districts that run through here. So when we say there's one elected Republican, we're talking about all levels of government. Our city council, which is 51 seats citywide.
2.59 million in 2013.
2.59 million
that we can count
live in Brooklyn.
I think it's closer to 3 million just because...
Even if we just say 2 million people in Brooklyn, which was a good guess, by the way, off the top of my head. One elected Republican, and that's at all levels of government. And the city council in New York is huge. There's 51 members in the New York City Council. The state senate, the state assembly, those are huge bodies. There's 62
counties in the state of New York.
62 counties.
151 assembly members, and I think 20 of them are from Brooklyn, and 20 of them are Democrat.
Number. One Republican. Queens, same thing. 1 or 2 Republicans elected. The Bronx, 0. Complete blowout.
And then there's Staten Island, which is the exception to the rule. They have,
the 3? County, and they have 3. So, Mr. Trump, don't be offended What are the New York values? New York values are democratic values.
Yeah,
Even the
lighten
ones
up,
that are
Francis.
Republicans are not really Republicans, and we don't even have that many of them.
Lighten up, Francis. All right? That's all I have to say about that. You know, Russ...
And lighten up everybody else. All these New Yorkers that all of a sudden are offended.
That I'm a real conservative. No, you're not a real conservative.
None of you are real conservatives. Otherwise, you'd like Ted Cruz to begin with. You're offended by what Ted Cruz said? The only real conservative in the race? You're offended by what he said?
You are not a... Please. You're buffoon nominee right there. Every New York conservative that got offended, quote-unquote, conservative. My goodness. They were probably all watching the debate later in the week, Russ, with Hillary and Bernie and the other guy, whatever the hell his name is.
They're probably bleeding out of their eyes.
And by the way, why is nobody watching the Democrat debates?
Well, honestly, they had good numbers. Nothing compared to the Republican debate, but there were 10 million people watching that that so-called debate, which ended early, by the way. Again, another Dem debate ended early.
Well, it got to be... The independent thought button was going off a little too much with Bernie on the stage. Can I just say something about Bernie Sanders real quick?
He's a character of himself, is he not?
He is the caricature of the angry old man.
But there's a little more nuance to it. Everyone from Brooklyn knows
Cuba.
Bernie Sanders.
Yes, everybody knows that Bernie Sanders from Brooklyn. Yes.
He is the quintessential old, maniacal Jewish liberal man from Brooklyn.
It's the truth. And we're not typecasting Jews in any way. Russ Gallo's a racist. But he always gets me on that one. I did not. I got him this time. But in all honesty, I think we all know someone who is as angry as Bernie Sanders and makes as little sense. And that's really his strong suit. And listen, Bernie Sanders never grew up. He is the Peter Pan of politics because he never got over spending everybody else's money. I mean, he has $1 trillion plan for health care or something like that. But here's what I took away from the debate, very quickly. And I know you got to say something. Hillary Clinton is turning it up. She's ratcheting up the offensive. She's showing emotion. She's getting further out there into the weeds with Bernie Sanders, attacking Bernie Sanders. She's nervous. She's nervous.
Going to be indicted, Gene. Why is no one else agreeing with me on this? I want everyone, all of our listeners, all of our friends to come on the air and say I was right when this happens. It's going to happen. It's impossible that she told whoever was emailing her to remove the classification banners off of classified emails that were being sent to her private email address and that she did not commit a crime. It's impossible. She committed a crime. If the FBI is doing a criminal investigation, they know this to be fact. She is going to get indicted before the election. Bernie Sanders will likely be the nominee, as insane as this sounds. And if for nothing else but comedic value, I want Donald Trump on that debate stage with Bernie.
Oh, can you imagine that?
That will be the funniest thing I've ever seen in politics.
It would be huge. It would be amazing. All right.
But one last thing, speaking of
course, yes, absolutely.
I don't know if you read this, but Reince Priebus and the RNC have cut ties with NBC.
After that debate, they cut ties with that debacle on MSNBC.
So, as much as we bash the establishment and guys like Reince Priebus,
right on you, man. Good job.
Credit is due, and the RNC on a conference call voted to terminate their relationship with NBC. Good job, guys. And the statement they put out was right on the money. It said something to the effect of, the job of the primary debates is to showcase our candidates and what their platforms are, not to be attacked by the moderators. Yes, sir, that is right. Good job. No more debates and I would not let Megyn Kelly debate another one, moderate another one either. But that's a side.
Well, who's next on the list besides Megyn Kelly? It'd be CNN or ABC. I mean, we'll see.
Why don't we let talk radio guys do it? Put Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage. Those are the guys I want to see.
CNN put Hugh Hewitt on, so that's not a far-fetched idea.
Yeah, but you one of these guys on CNN, the guy Hugh Hewitt has an axe to grind too.
All right, well, listen. Coming to the end of this segment, I just want to say to everybody, thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene, he's Russ, and while we got you listening, be sure to check out www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Check us out on the Facebook and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And if you miss any portion of this show as we play it live here on Spreaker, be sure to check out any one of our internet and AM radio outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Talk Radio, and Sackheads Media. We're number 1 every week over there, by the way, Russ. Shout out to them. And K98 Talk. And be sure to also check us out if you miss any of those outlets and our scheduled times there, which you can find in our network listings section. You can listen to us on demand anytime you want on Spreaker, iTunes, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
That was a pretty badass commercial.
We are a pretty badass show, Russ. That's what it all comes down to. All right, listen, I know you like going on record.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that, because look what I just wrote on my notes. I'm surprised you just did that.
Of course. I want to get your statements on record for this week because, we got some exciting things happening in the coming weeks. I want to make sure we don't miss a thing. I hope your Iowa prediction is on there, Russ, because it's coming up. It's coming up.
I'll have to go on the record there, too, I suppose.
You know what? No, don't do that. Don't do that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what we always do. Let's break out the envelopes. Let's break out the pieces of paper. Let's get our top 3 written down. We're going to seal the envelopes up, and we'll open them after Iowa.
We could do the Iowa thing in envelopes.
All right.
That's good.
There we go. We're going to take care of that and make sure everybody sees on social media that we're doing that. But Russ Gallo on the record. Go ahead.
On the record, first, this programming note, I just got word that Spike Lee is actually boycotting Behind Enemy Lines because we have an all-white cast.
Why should this week be any different?
So Spike Lee, go F yourself.
Wow. Jada Pinkett Smith, you're right there behind him.
So, on the record, I have 3 predictions, Gene, that I want to get on the record. Some of them I already mentioned. Number 1. Hillary Clinton will be indicted before the election, and I don't know if Bernie Sanders will necessarily be the nominee. I don't know how the Democratic Party runs their primary system. If it may not be too late to get another candidate on there. Joe Biden, Al Gore, a whole host of other losers can possibly jump in still, but it won't be Hillary Clinton.
Is there a committee to fill vacancies when one goes to prison, Russ?
I'm not sure if that even would make them remove her from the ballot. She might just lose.
She might get a bump for all we know.
She might get a bump on the Democratic side. So that's number 1. Number 2, Trump will be the nominee of this party. I don't see Barack Obama doing a good job.
Really?
Barack Obama will not be a good boy for the last, and boy, oh man, I said boy. Barack Obama will not be a good boy for the next year. He will continue to do illegal executive actions and pander to small groups, which will enrage the people of this country and force them into Trump's camp.
When did boy become a dog whistle? That's ridiculous. Yep, there you go.
All right. So, and then lastly, my last prediction, which is coming up pretty soon, not before the next show, but pretty soon, Tom Brady will lead the New England Patriots to another Super Bowl win.
Oh man, we got the Deflategate guy versus the human growth hormone guy.
Trump guy too. So they're all tied together here. It's the year of Trump and Brady.
All right, I'm going to give you my 3 predictions real quick that I'm coming up with as Russ was talking. Number 1. Hillary Clinton goes running back home to Barack Obama's record. This is a guarantee, Russ. She's going to start embracing the Obama agenda. She's going to start embracing the Obama record because whether we like him or not, Obama is still very popular with the African American vote. And what does any Democrat need to carry anywhere that is considered a liberal bastion? You need the African American vote. She will not cater to the vote directly with her I ain't in no ways tired nonsense, but she will cater to the record and she'll embrace what Barack Obama did. Prediction number 2, I don't care about your Patriots. I'm an NFC fan. I am going with Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton destroyed me every fantasy game he played against me. There's no way they can win. This team can go up 31 points and a half and then hold on to win 31-28. That's a team that I'm used to watching. They're cardiac kids. I like them. I'm going with them. And my final prediction, I'm not going to go with who the nominee is, but I will say this. Donald Trump will be 0-2 by the time we go to South Kakalaki.
Wow.
He's not winning Iowa. He's not winning New Hampshire. Wow. I'm going on record saying right now, Ted Cruz takes them both.
Please tab this show because I want to come back to this.
Absolutely. Listen, time for us to take a quick break here.
I want to throw one bonus.
You got a bonus?
A bonus one, Gene. You might
bonus. Go ahead.
Joe Biden will not cure cancer.
Oh, man. And I was so hopeful.
Does that need an explanation real quick?
No, it does not need an explanation.
Do you remember last week's show?
Yes, last week's show, we definitely talked about that.
Right.
Yes, I remember that. All right. I think we're going to take a break right now. Lord knows I need one. But when we come back, We will have our interview with Matt Schlapp from the American Conservative Union, talking about CPAC coming up in March. And then we'll be talking to Dale Bellis, the Executive Director of Liberty Health Share. It's a jam-packed show, folks. Gene and Russ, Behind Enemy Lines. We'll be back right after this brief word.
I'm Vito.
And I'm Vito, and we're from WNJC's The Vito and Vito Show.
Every Friday at 1 p.m., you can hear Vito and Vito bring you the perspectives of two college-age millennial conservatives who are committed to defending the principles of free markets, liberty, freedom, and individualism from Brooklyn, New York.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vito and Vito Show, and check out our blog posts and articles at VitoandVito.com.
Vito and Vito Show every Friday, 1 p.m. on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. In Brooklyn,
it's nothing but the truth.
There's a movement in healthcare today. It's a movement of people that's ready to stand up and take charge of their healthcare. It's people like you and me who are tired of paying too much for healthcare and getting too little. People who are standing up for their values and letting their conscience make decisions based on timeless principles. It's a movement that's sweeping the nation, and you need to be a part of it. Liberty Health Share is leading the movement of people who are looking for an alternative to traditional health insurance. Liberty Health Share is a healthcare sharing organization of people who are sharing the cost of healthcare in an easy and efficient way. Choose your own doctor, your own hospital, and live out your values in healthcare. Join the movement. Together, we're changing healthcare for good. Go to www.joinlhs.com or call 800-722-8041.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air.
Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines. And, you know, for some people, they say that the most wonderful time of year is the holiday season that just passed. But for me and my gang, the most wonderful time of year is always the time of year when we get to go to CPAC. And on the line with me right now, from the American Conservative Union, my good friend and past guest of the show, Matt Schlapp. Matt, how you doing, pal?
Gene, it is great to be with you again.
Great to be with you, too. Before we get into all the good CPAC news that's coming at us, of course, it's the best time of year for, like I said, for everybody that I know. I just want to get your reaction to what you heard during the State of the Union. Some good, I think there's some good that came out of it, but it sounded a lot like legacy building and not a lot of real substance there.
You know, I'm going to tell you something. Do you want me to get real honest, Gene?
No, I want you to lie to me, Matt, of course. Come on.
So we were up in your neck of the woods. My wife and I spent the day yesterday in New York. We had a couple media hits and some meetings, and we took the train back, and by the time we got up and down, we did not watch the speech live, nor did we watch the rebuttal live, and it felt wonderful and freeing not to have to go through that with President Obama, because like the rest of us conservatives, we've gone through that for 7 other years, and it's rather painful. So I felt completely free as a bird, but I have gone back and consumed the speech, and you know, I think what we've learned from President Obama is that he's a really talented person. He's a talented politician. He was actually pretty clear with the country about what he wanted to do to the country, and in all candor, he was able to do much of it. And I think that's sad. And you know, I am very pleased that this chapter in our country is coming to a close.
As am I. You know what? I took the opposite view. I had to watch it just to see it through to the end. I'm like, okay, I've sat through the last 7. Here comes the last one. I can't quit now, you know. So I made it through to the end, thankfully. And did you get a chance to see Nikki Haley's rebuttal?
Yes.
I thought it was a little too veiled in its attempt to kind of push down what I think is a great story, the rise of conservatism when it comes to Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, because it seemed like it was pointedly directed towards both of them.
Look, I agree. I think you know what these people don't understand. I'm sure Governor Haley is a very good person and a very good governor, but I think what they feel somehow that they should be the ones controlling this process. And I am really happy that it's more grassroots oriented. And the activists in Iowa and the activists in Nevada and the activists in New Hampshire and in South Carolina, all those states that vote in February, they're the ones who are in control. Not all these Republican elected officials and not all these people that write for conservative journals. And there's a real, division about whether or not it's good to grow our ranks. And I think it's good. I worked for President George W. Bush. I've been involved in 2 presidential elections. We almost lost one in the first go-around, 2000. Some would say we did lose. I think that's wrong. There's no upside to losing. And in a democracy, you have to get more than 50%. And Republicans can't get there alone, and conservatives can't get there alone. We've got to stitch together a coalition. And if a guy like Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, with their approach, gets more people activated into the process, and if they will be true to our conservative values, I'm having trouble seeing the downside of that.
There are more eyes right now on the conservative movement than there have been pretty much at any time in history because of the advent of the internet and social media and all these things. But because we have high-profile candidates who are going to be at CPAC as well, right in the thick of the early election season. That's got to be exciting for you, Matt.
It's really exciting. I mean, one of the reasons why Donald Trump is endearing to people is that when I invited him to come to CPAC this year, he took out his pen, as he often does, and wrote a very nice note on it and emailed it directly back to me saying, of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it. So he was the very first person to respond. And Carly Fiorina, as a former foundation chairman for the ACU, was very quick to respond and wanted to be there, and Ted Cruz as well. And we have other presidential candidates who will be announcing soon. I think we'll have certainly most of them, and we're very excited that Carly, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump and Rick Santorum have all been announced and are coming, and all of them are crowd favorites. I have to say, Carly Fiorina, I'm very partial to because she worked here at the ACU. She got down into the muck with us and helped us get this organization really going on the right path, and she's a person who I consider a friend and I just have deep respect for. Ted Cruz and I worked on that first Bush presidential campaign together, and with his wife. And my wife was actually on that campaign as well. None of us were married at the time. And I know him well, and I'm really proud of what he's doing. I think he's run just a fantastic campaign. Rick Santorum is, conservatives love Rick because he has been a leader on really important issues for a very long time, and I'm very proud he's coming back. So, CPAC was the most attended CPAC last year we've had ever, most press ever, and I think 2016 is going to be even better.
I tend to agree. Now, if we look back to 2012, when we were at CPAC, I believe we had 3 candidates left in the race then. I think it was Romney, Santorum, and Speaker Gingrich. This time around, there's the potential for more than that to be still in the running and still going strong, mainly because you have a whole different field with multiple super PACs. You have probably the strongest field of Republican candidates ever. I mean, you have to feel like this is an embarrassment of riches almost when it comes to the list of speakers that you can potentially have coming this year. That's why we think it's going to be the biggest one ever.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And remember, it's not just the presidential candidates. We're going to have the leading journalists who write for conservative publications. We're going to invite some liberals because we think it's important to have the juxtaposition of their crazy thoughts on things. We'll treat them with respect, but we're going to invite some of them, and we're going to have conservatives debating on the stage. And we're also going to make sure that we talk about the issues of the day and make sure activists can learn. I mean, I don't know, Gene, with the people you talk to. I know I talk to a lot of my family and friends back in Kansas where I grew up, and conservatives around the country are really concerned about their country, and they don't always know where to go to for the answers for these serious questions. And I think you said it really well when we started the program. CPAC is one of those places people come to get answers, to figure out how they can plug in, to figure out how they can make a difference. So we're going to have activism so activists can learn to be even more effective in their communities. We're going to talk about these issues, and we're going to hear from the people who lead our movement.
The reason why CPAC is so important to my group of friends and the people that I talk to, and the reason that I tell people that CPAC is so vital and so important, is because I'm from the People's Republic of New York City. I can go to a dinner and maybe miss quorum for a meeting of Republicans somewhere in the city. In CPAC, it's almost like a homecoming, and it's also like an oasis for those of us who are in the trenches, outnumbered and outgunned. For those of us traveling from metropolitan areas like New York, like Philadelphia, like other places in the Northeast, Boston, it's so much more of a homecoming. CPAC is, yes, it's the speeches, it's the learning and the empowerment, but it's also the reunion, Matt. And talk a little bit about that.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. I'm so glad you said that because I was shocked. It was the first year I was chairman at this last CPAC, and there were people I hadn't seen for decades who came to CPAC, and people I was in the trenches with, and on important, campaigns and stuff. And I ran into them at CPAC, and I'm so glad, Gene, you've had that experience too. I had a cup of coffee yesterday with Judge Napolitano, and he was telling me that he went to the very first CPAC. He said was in a room you could barely fit 50 chairs in, and so you hear these stories. People love coming back, and the neatest thing has been I've talked to people that stopped going to CPAC and now have started coming again. And I talked to someone today, as a matter of fact, and that always makes me feel good because you know what, Gene? You don't know. It's not just you in New York City who feels isolated and alone sometimes. All of us do as conservatives, because I think we're under attack, and they think we're on the run. I don't think we're on the run. I think we're actually ready to take the country back and work together, and I really mean that. And we have a chance to get this country back on the right track, and it's all of us reconnecting with each other, encouraging each other, including at CPAC, that's going to get it done.
This year it's going to be right in the heart of the election season. There's going to be so many moving parts. I dare say it's going to be the most exciting CPAC in history. I can't wait to be a part of it. For those listening out there, check out the American Conservative Union, cpac.org, right?
That's right.
Oh, look, I got it right without even looking at my notes. Check it out. Register early. You get a price break if you register early. You'll be glad that you did. It'll be an amazing experience you won't forget. Matt, it's going to be so much fun coming back home to CPAC this year. And it's going to be an amazingly pivotal year. And I'm with you on this. I'm with you in saying I think we're taking the White House. I think we are holding the legislature, House and Senate. It's going to be a banner year. And I think CPAC is going to be the tempo setter for the entire year coming up. Thanks for coming on the show. It's always great to talk to you. And, man, I'm excited. I want to get in my car and start driving already. It's going to be so much fun. Thanks for coming on, man.
That's great, Gene. And thanks for having me on, and thanks for being such a great friend to me and to CPAC.
Behind Enemy Lines.
Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines, joining me right now on the line with me. Always great to have on the show from Liberty Health Share, my good friend Dale Bellis. Dale, thanks for coming back on. Great talking to you. Happy New Year, pal.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation. Delighted to be with you.
Oh, it's always great to have you on because, listen, I'm a big believer in Liberty Health Share and all the good work that you're doing. And let me tell you something. You guys are getting creative. There's a blog. If you go to the Liberty Health Share blog, which is it's on their site, libertyhealthshare.org. There's an article there that says 5 ways health sharing is like the Force. That's some great cross branding right there, Dale.
Yeah, well, that was I can only attribute it to our creative staff who drew those parallels. So yeah, we'd welcome folks to go there and check it out.
Absolutely. But you know what? The parallels are pretty apt because there is a power that comes from freeing yourself from the shackles of the insurance company. Talk about that for a second. Talk about how Liberty Health Share frees people from this healthcare system that just has become so overcumbersome.
Well, there is an energy associated with exercising freedom and liberty from health insurance. Its rising costs, its complexity, its intrusion in our lives, and instead joining a like-minded community and sharing our medical bills when we individually are in the driver's seat. Gene, that just changes the dynamic when we are both in charge of and responsible for our own care and costs, and we choose to share that in community with others. It's just a whole mindset change. It's a paradigm shift because now we're addressing costs as once it used to be addressed, neighbor to neighbor, person to person.
And it creates, besides the sense of community that it creates that we've talked about before, one thing that I feel is missing in the world is a sense of empathy, I guess you would say, for your fellow man and what they're going through. You know, we see in political climates all the time, you know, the fighting back and forth, and it gets really divisive, and it gets really, really, you know, lowbrow and disgusting at some points. But this actually, the Liberty Health Share actually creates not only community, but creates a culture of caring for one another.
Well, it's really a part of our shared beliefs, and every member who joins signs off and says, you know what, I've been placed on this earth to be able to impact others and to use my resources to share with others who have a need. If that's truly at the core of who and what we are, then we will really participate not only with one another when we have medical bills, but engage for both emotional and spiritual support in some of the greatest crises of our lives. Let me just use an example. There's a young couple down in Florida Jim and Carol, whose the wife, the young mother, contracted a virus, and suddenly, Gene, it attacked her heart, and she was on the list for a heart transplant. This happened within the last 2 weeks. There was such an outpouring of support and encouragement and words of cheer and prayer. And the good news here is Carol has been taken off the heart transplant list. She's coming home, which is remarkable and beyond belief. And that couple's life will never be the same. It's an entire network of people reaching out to someone in crisis and in need, and being used to impact their lives forever. It's an astounding experience that happens month after month.
It's the best of all American values when we can all come together and help each other in community, especially when it happens outside of the framework of an over-cumbersome government and over-intrusive political culture. It's wonderful to hear stories like that, Dale. It really is.
Well, we share those medical expenses. We ask each of our members to set aside a set share amount in their online account. We call it a share box. And that share amount is then matched to another member who has medical expenses. And they can message them with cheer or encouragement or prayer. And that transpires every month. We're sharing in those typical medical costs that occur all the way from a wellness visit at the doctor's office to a tragic intervention, as I just mentioned, with a heart transplant, and all in between. Our members are sharing literally millions of dollars of medical expense every year.
It's amazing that, to me, this is kind of what revolutionizing your life is all about. Besides just taking back your freedom, when you stand up to the traditional bonds of the insurance market and just traditional health care, and you stand up and you do this, look at all the great externalities that come out of it. Besides just taking control of your own health, all the good that you can bring to other people. And, my New Year's resolution was to kind of take control of my health care. Dale, when we're done with this interview, I'm clicking enroll on the site. I am getting the information, and I will be signing up starting this month. As I told you last time, I'm doing it, man. I'm joining the community, and I will be one of the many.
We welcome you.
Oh, listen, it's a pleasure. And for those of you who want to do it as well, Dale, tell everybody how they can join Liberty Health Share, how easy it is to go to the website and get all the information they need. Just one click.
We advise you to go to joinlhs.com, joinlhs.com. You can ask for what we call a free decision guide delivered to you by mail or directly to your email electronically. There's a phone number there. They can call the call center, talk to one of our trusted advisors, or click through to the site and review all of the information. We want folks to get as educated and informed as possible, because it is a paradigm shift. It's freedom from health insurance, and depending on each other, member to member, person to person, in a mutual support, mutual aid model that's been in existence for decades. But join LHS.com and get all the information, or just simply click on the Join Now button and enroll.
I'm going to go do it right after the show. And by the way, if you don't remember joinlhs.com, which you all should, while you're listening to this show and you're on BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us, click on the Liberty Health Share ad right at the top of the page. It'll take you right there and fill out all the information you need. It's time to form an alliance, folks. I'm going back to the Star Wars theme. It's time to form an alliance with a whole bunch, thousands of like-minded, health-conscious Americans to take control of your health care. Dale, always a pleasure. Can't wait to talk to you again real soon, and keep up all the great work. Next month, we're going to talk about what it's like to be a new enrollee with Liberty Health Share, folks. Dale, thank you so much.
I look forward to that with anticipation, Gene. Thank you, man.
The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
But resist we must. They're all jitty about a shutdown. The tortoise in the race, then co-author of Hubris. U2 lead singer Bono, Fran Drescher, Sigourney Weaver, suspect Jahar Tsarnaev, Rush Limbaugh. The show Rush Lombard hosts Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Is Mike Muckery yesterday, Antonin Scalia, Kim Kardashian, and the Republican candidates, both Cairo and Benghazi. We rank behind Lavita. First stop, Kazakhstan, to college students in Beijing. He's getting lunch at Chipotle in Iowa. Bain is appropriate. The GOP's tax day giveaway to millionaires. Why was traffic problems email sent? The Environmental Projection Agency. And what sequestration has done.
And they gave this guy a TV show? Let's get back to our show.
Gene and Russ, back behind enemy lines. We got a little bit of show left here. Running out of time. Time for some final thoughts. Russ Gallo, what do you got for us?
Something for our listeners to ponder. I've been wrestling with this for a while now myself. I know Bill O'Reilly used to talk about this a lot on his show. Gas prices are at basically historic lows. I'm reading that in Michigan at one gas station it was actually 47 cents.
47 cents!
I don't understand this because we were told for years that whenever there's instability in the Middle East, that causes gas prices to rise. The Middle East is on fire. ISIS is basically controlling territory in several different countries. The U.S. is about to go back to war in the Middle East in a couple of those countries against ISIS. There's a war in Iraq going on, Afghanistan, and Iran is running amok. So why are gas prices so low? I don't understand it. We need to do more research on this, and I'm not buying the argument ever again that instability in the Middle East causes gas prices to rise, because it certainly does not.
Over $1 billion in U.S. cash goes a long way, Russ. That's all I'm going to say about that. My final thought, real simple. There's a great article on www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. I should know, I wrote it, talking about who is the man behind the Bertha lawsuit in Texas against Senator Ted Cruz. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, Newton B. Schwartz Sr. Esquire, or is he? Because the state of Pennsylvania has suspended Mr. Schwartz's law license for the next 3 years, retroactive from February 2014. He won't be able to practice law there until 2017. For those of you in our Philadelphia market, if you see Newton Schwartz anywhere in the area trying to practice law, go get him. But what does this mean for his law license and practice in Texas? Well, Texas should probably suspend him as well once they find out about it, if they find out about it. I'm sure the Cruz campaign will do a good job of letting them know what's going on. But he also sued in pro se on his own behalf, not as an attorney, so it won't affect the suit so much. But here's what it does say. It says that Looney Tunes can be lawyers too. And that's what I'm going to say about that, from one Looney Tune lawyer to another. It's just about time to shut this sucker down. What do you say, my brother? You ready to get out of here or what?
Shut this mofo down, Gene. All you guys listening, go support Sheriff Joe Arpaio. I need your help. He's running for re-election as sheriff. He can only do it with you. Go help him out.
Absolutely. We'll try to get him on the show and do our part as well here. But until next week, where we have some more news and shenanigans going on. Tuning to the show with no New York values whatsoever. Gene and Russ behind enemy lines. We are out of here. Good night, folks.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. A Rock Radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.